The alien council chamber, a massive dome of shimmering crystalline structures, suspended in the vacuum of interstellar space, hummed with tension. Seated around the oval table were the Thryvann, a race of hyper-intelligent beings with translucent skin that pulsed with bioluminescent colors, a reflection of their thoughts and emotions. Today, their colors were an ominous mix of dark blue and crimson, skepticism and contempt. Before them floated a holographic projection of Earth's surface, scorched and barren after decades of war. From the Thryvann perspective, this was the end of humanity, a predictable conclusion for a primitive, self-destructive species. They refused to yield, one of the councillors hissed, her voice a melodic hum interlaced with static. Even as their cities crumble, they stand. The hologram shifted to show a ragged group of human survivors in the wasteland. Their leader, a woman with a tattered jacket and piercing eyes, stood atop a broken tank. Her voice boomed through a makeshift amplifier. They may have superior weapons, but we have something they don't, each other. Fight, not for survival, but for the chance to prove we are more than they think we are. The Thryvann watched in silence as the humans rallied. Men and women, bruised and battered, began dismantling fallen alien machines, scavenging parts with an astonishing level of ingenuity. Within hours, they had repurposed enemy technology, creating crude but functional energy shields and weapons. The council erupted in confusion. Impossible. They shouldn't comprehend our systems. It defies all logic, another councillor muttered, his bioluminescence flickering violently. This level of adaptability, it is unnatural. The hologram scene shifted once. More. A lone human scout, wounded but undeterred, faced a towering alien creature bred for destruction. A Volthar, a beast that even the Thryvann feared. The scout approached it not with weapons, but with an offering. A handful of glowing fruit scavenged from alien wreckage. The Volthar sniffed the air, its deadly claws retracting as it cautiously accepted the gesture. Seconds later, the beast turned, roaring at its alien handlers and charging them instead. The council chamber fell silent. No being had ever tamed a Volthar. They adapt, the eldest councillor murmured, his voice trembling. His bioluminescence turned a pale yellow. Or, for the first time, the Thryvann were not sure if they were dealing with a defeated species or an imminent threat. The desolation of Earth was a testament to the Thryvann's calculated precision. What once was a thriving blue planet teeming with life was now a smouldering husk under perpetual ash-filled skies. Yet humanity endured, much to the aliens' growing irritation, in a crumbling underground bunker deep beneath the ruins of New York City. Commander Elena Vega, the woman from the hologram, stood over a table cluttered with salvaged alien technology. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned the blueprints hastily drawn on scraps of paper. Around her, a dozen engineers and scientists worked feverishly, their faces streaked with soot and determination. "We're out of time," Elena said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "The Thryvann Mothership is closing in. We have one shot to disable their orbital defense grid, or it's over." A younger engineer, Samir Patel, raised his head from his work. "Commander, if we reroute the power cells from their plasma rifles into the pulse emitter, we might generate enough EMP to knock their systems offline, but it's risky. If it backfires, the entire bunker could go up in flames." "Risk is all we have left," Elena replied. "Make it happen." Above ground, the Thryvann's observation drones hovered silently, their insect-like frames cloaked against human detection. They relayed real-time feeds back to the mothership, where the council observed in growing frustration. "They are primitives," one councillor sneered, his bioluminescence flaring a sharp red. "They waste time with crude improvisations. This resistance is futile." "Futile, yes," another councillor agreed, "but peculiar. Their resourcefulness borders on the uncanny. They repurpose our technology as if they understand its principles, yet their civilization barely scratched the surface of quantum mechanics before their fall. The eldest counselor, Ilvor, remained silent, his glowing hues an unreadable shade of pale green. He had witnessed countless species crumble under the Thryvann's dominion, yet something about humanity unsettled him. Back in the bunker, Elena approached a young soldier, Private May Lin, who was tending to her battle-scarred exo suit. May's hands trembled as she adjusted the mechanisms. "Nervous?" Elena asked, her tone softer now. May looked up, her face pale but resolute. "A little. It's just... they're so advanced, Commander. How can we win against something like that?" Elena knelt beside her, placing a firm hand on May's shoulder. "Because they don't understand us. They think resilience is a weakness, that hope is illogical. But that's why we'll win. Hope isn't logical. It's human. And it's what makes us dangerous." May nodded, her resolve hardening. Meanwhile, aboard the Thryvann mothership, the Council debated their next move. "Deploy the Volthar to the surface," one councillor suggested. "Let the beast crush their final stronghold. They cannot hope to tame such a force." Ilvor's bioluminescence dimmed to a murky grey. "We have underestimated them before. Proceed cautiously. The Volthar is a weapon, but it is also unpredictable. If they adapt to it as they have to our technology..." Another councillor interrupted. "Adapt? To the Volthar? Absurd. No species has ever turned a Volthar against us. The mere suggestion is an insult to our supremacy." Ilvor said nothing, but his unease deepened. As the humans scrambled to complete their EMP device, a low rumble shook the bunker. Dust rained from the ceiling as a holographic alert flickered to life. "Elena," a technician called out, "something massive is approaching." It's the Volthar." Elena's jaw tightened. "Everyone, double time on that device. I'll buy us some breathing room." She grabbed her plasma rifle and headed to the surface, where the Volthar, a monstrous creature standing over 30 feet tall with armored scales and razor-sharp claws, was carving a path of destruction through the ruins. Its roar shattered windows and sent tremors through the ground. Elena didn't flinch. She stood her ground, weapon aimed at the beast, as her voice echoed through the comms. "I need a distraction. Someone get me its attention." From behind the rubble, May emerged, firing a volley of scavenged alien rounds at the creature. The Volthar roared and turned, its predatory eyes locking onto her. Elena seized the moment, sprinting toward a fallen alien cargo pod. Inside, she found what she was looking for. A containment unit filled with bioluminescent fruits, the Volthar's primary food source. With a deep breath, she stepped into the creature's path and tossed a fruit toward it. The Volthar paused, sniffing the air, its massive head tilted in confusion before it lowered itself to inspect the offering. May's voice crackled through the comms. "Commander, are you out of your mind?" "Maybe," Elena muttered. The Volthar accepted the fruit cautiously. Moments later, it turned its attention away from the humans and let out a deafening roar directed at the Thryvann drones hovering nearby. From their mothership, the Council stared in disbelief as the Volthar began tearing through their own forces. Ilvor's bioluminescence faded to a pale yellow. They have done the impossible. Humanity had crossed another threshold, one the Thryvann had never anticipated. What they considered impossible was merely another challenge for humans to overcome. And for the first time, the Council began to fear that their dominion over Earth was slipping. The battlefield transformed into chaos as the Volthar unleashed its fury. The Thryvann drones, previously untouchable in their technological superiority, now faced an enraged beast that their own hubris had sent into action. Meanwhile, the humans capitalized on the distraction. In the bunker below, the EMP device was nearing completion, the hum of improvised machinery growing louder with each passing moment. Elena descended back into the bunker, her jacket singed. From an earlier close call with alien fire, she strode directly to Samir, who was hunched over the EMP device. "Status," she demanded. "Almost there," he replied, sweat pouring down his face. "We need 10 more minutes, but—" He gestured to a set of malfunctioning power cells. Elena frowned. But Samir hesitated. "The cells are unstable. There's a chance they could overload before the device activates." Elena glanced at the team working around her. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers. Most of them weren't specialists, but people who had learned on the fly. They didn't have the luxury of perfection. "Keep working," she said. "We'll deal with the overload if it happens." Aboard the Thryvann mothership, the council chamber buzzed with frantic energy. Ilvor stood at the edge of the room, watching the holographic feed of the battlefield. The humans' ingenuity continued to defy logic. "They manipulate our technology with such ease," he murmured. "This is no accident. They are adaptive beyond comprehension." Another councillor scoffed. "Adaptation means nothing without power. Deploy the second wave, crush their bunker, and be done with it." Ilvor hesitated. "And if they survive? If they counter us again? Every failure emboldens them. They are insects," the councillor hissed, "nothing more." But deep down, Ilvor wasn't convinced. Back on the surface, the Volthar rampaged through the ruins. Elena and her team had managed to return to the bunker, but the creature's actions had changed the battlefield. Private Mei Lin, now stationed at an observation post, reported through the comms. "Commander, you won't believe this. The Volthar, it's attacking the Thryvann drones." "It's like it's on our side," Elena smirked. "Not on our side, just against theirs. That's good enough." But the moment of levity was short-lived. The ground shook violently as a new wave of Thryvann reinforcements descended. Their skimmers, sleek, hovering vehicles armed with plasma cannons, swept across the ruins, targeting both humans and the Volthar. Elena rallied her team. "Samir, how much longer on that EMP?" "5 minutes!" he shouted over the chaos. "Good," Elena replied. "May, you're with me. We're keeping those skimmers busy until Samir finishes." May's voice crackled nervously through the comms. "Commander, those things will vaporize us." "Then we'll make sure they miss," Elena said with a grim determination. Elena and May emerged from the bunker, armed with makeshift energy weapons crafted from scavenged Thryvann tech. The skimmers honed in on their position, plasma bolts, tearing through the rubble around them, but instead of retreating, Elena charged forward, using the terrain to her advantage. "Focus fire on their engines," she ordered. May hesitated for a fraction of a second before following Elena's lead. The makeshift weapons weren't perfect, but they were enough. A well-placed shot from May struck a skimmer's propulsion system, sending it spiraling into the ground. The Thryvann aboard the mothership watched in disbelief. "They adapt to our technology faster than anticipated," Ilvor observed, his bioluminescence flickering between yellow and orange. "They have turned even their despair into a weapon." Inside the bunker, the EMP device reached its final stage of assembly. Samir and his team worked furiously, but the unstable power cells began to emit a high-pitched whine. "Commander!" Samir yelled through the comms. "The cells are going critical. If we don't stabilize them, the entire device could blow." Elena, still outside, glanced at May. "Hold the line," she said before sprinting back toward the bunker. Inside, the scene was dire. Sparks flew from the EMP device as Samir frantically adjusted the controls. "We're out of time," he said, his voice breaking. Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll make time." She grabbed a nearby cable and connected it directly to her exosuit's power core. "Commander, what are you doing?" Samir shouted. "Giving you the stability you need," Elena replied. "Now, finish the job." The strain on her exosuit was immediate. Power fluctuations surged through her system, and warning indicators flashed across her helmet's HUD. The Thryvann Council watched in stunned silence. as the holographic feed displayed Elena's actions. "She sacrifices herself," Ilvor murmured. "For what? For hope? For survival? Such irrationality." Another counselor interjected. "No, not irrationality. Something more. Something we have never encountered." The eldest counselor's bioluminescence dimmed to a deep yellow. "We have underestimated them at every turn, and now we may pay the price." With Elena's sacrifice stabilizing the device, Samir completed the final connection. "Everyone, brace yourselves," he shouted. A surge of energy erupted from the EMP device, sending a shockwave rippling across the battlefield. The Thryvann skimmers faltered mid-air before crashing to the ground. The observation drones disintegrated, and even the Mothership systems experienced temporary disruptions. The battlefield fell silent. Elena, barely conscious, slumped against the EMP device, her Exo Suit smoking from the overload. Samir rushed to her side. "Commander, are you—" "I'm alive," she muttered. "Did it work?" Samir nodded, a grin breaking across his face. It worked. Above, aboard the Mothership, the Thryvann Council faced a grim reality. "They are not like the others," Ilvor said, his bioluminescence a somber grey. "Humanity is something new, something dangerous." Another counselor growled. "Dangerous? They are an anomaly. We must destroy them before they become a true threat." Ilvor turned to face the others. "And if we fail, what then? Humanity does not fight for dominance. They fight for survival, and that makes them unstoppable." The council chamber fell silent as the humans on the surface rallied, their spirits unbroken. For the first time, the Thryvann were not just fighting to subjugate, they were fighting to survive. The battlefield was eerily silent in the aftermath of the EMP blast. Smoke rose from the wreckage of Thryvann skimmers, and the once ominous hum of alien drones had vanished. For a moment, the humans allowed themselves a glimmer of hope, but it was short-lived. The skies above the ruins darkened as the Thryvann Mothership descended, its colossal form blotting out the sun. The ground quaked under its presence, and a deep, resonating hum filled the air as it powered up a weapon designed to obliterate what remained of Earth's resistance. In the bunker, Elena Vega forced herself to her feet. Her exosuit was barely functional, and her body screamed in protest, but her resolve burned brighter than ever. "Samir, how long before they fire?" she asked, her voice strained but steady. Samir glanced at the monitors. 2 minutes, maybe. Less. That thing's not just targeting us, it's going to level everything within a 100-mile radius. Elena's mind raced. There was no time to regroup, no time to devise another clever plan. This was it. "Then we hit them first," she said. Samir looked at her incredulously. "With what? The EMP fried most of their systems, but we don't have anything left that can take down a ship that size." Elena's eyes darted to the wreckage of a Thryvann skimmer. Its propulsion core, though damaged, still emitted a faint glow. A plan began to form. Reckless, desperate, but their only shot. "May," Elena called through the comms, "get me a team at the skimmer wreckage. We're going to turn their tech against them one last time." Within minutes, May and a small team of engineers and soldiers joined Elena at the crash site. They worked quickly, prying the propulsion core from the wreckage and stabilizing its volatile energy output. "This thing's barely holding together," May warned, sweat dripping from her forehead. "What's the plan, Commander?" Elena tightened her grip on a makeshift control module. "We're going to turn it into a missile and send it straight into the heart of their mothership." May's eyes widened. "That's suicide." Elena nodded grimly. "Probably, but if we don't, we're all dead anyway." The team fell silent, the weight of the moment sinking in. Then, one by one, they nodded. "We'll get it ready," May said, determination hardening her voice. As the team worked, Samir patched into the comms. "Commander, you're not seriously thinking of piloting that thing yourself, are you?" Elena smiled faintly. "Who else, Samir?" You're the brains of this operation, and Maze needed to keep the team together. This one's on me." "Commander," Samir's voice faltered. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Elena said firmly. "You all have to keep fighting after this. Humanity's future depends on you. Now get ready to cover me." The Thryvann Mothership's weapon systems glowed ominously as they reached full charge. Inside, the Council observed with a mix of satisfaction and caution. "This is the end of their defiance," one councillor declared. "They cannot hope to—" The holographic feed interrupted him, showing Elena's team hauling the propulsion core into position. "What are they doing now?" another councillor asked, irritation lacing their tone. Ilvor stepped closer to the display, his bioluminescence flickering with an uneasy green. "Something unprecedented. Watch closely." With the propulsion core rigged to a crude guidance system, Elena climbed into the pilot's seat of a salvaged skimmer. The makeshift missile was attached to its underside, and the vehicle's systems sparked with instability. "This is Commander Elena Vega," she said, her voice broadcasting on all frequencies. "To the Thryvann Council watching from your ivory tower, you underestimated us. You thought we were weak. You thought wrong." The skimmer roared to life, lurching forward with a shudder. Elena gripped the controls tightly, guiding the unstable craft toward the mothership. "Cover her!" May shouted, leading her team in firing on the remaining Thryvann ground forces. Plasma bolts streaked across the battlefield as humanity fought tooth and nail to give Elena a clear path. Inside the mothership, alarms blared. "They're targeting us directly," a councillor exclaimed, their bioluminescence flaring red. "Intercept them," another ordered. But it was too late. The EMP had crippled their defensive systems, and the humans' relentless assault on the ground kept the remaining forces occupied. Ilvor watched in silence, his colors dimming. She is willing to sacrifice everything. Not for dominance, but for hope. This is beyond anything we have encountered. As the skimmer approached the mothership, its propulsion system began to fail, sparks flying from the controls. The propulsion core beneath her glowed brighter, its energy building toward critical mass. "Almost there," Elena muttered, her hands steady on the controls despite the chaos around her. Behind her, the Thryvann launched a desperate volley of plasma fire. One shot grazed the skimmer, sending it into a spiral. "Elena!" Samir's voice crackled through the comms. "I'm fine!" she snapped, wrestling the skimmer back on course. The mothership loomed ahead, its weapon systems locked onto her. But Elena didn't waver. "For humanity," she whispered. With a final surge of power, the skimmer crashed into the mothership's outer hull. The propulsion core detonated in a blinding explosion, tearing through the ship's energy systems. On the ground, the humans watched in stunned silence as the mothership faltered. Its massive form tilted, sparks flying from its ruptured hull. Moments later it began to fall, crashing into the ruins with a deafening roar. Cheers erupted across the battlefield. Against all odds, they had done the impossible. In the bunker, Samir sat back, tears streaming down his face. "She did it," he whispered. Aboard the damaged mothership, Ilvor staggered to his feet, his bioluminescence dim. Around him, the council was in disarray, their confidence shattered. "They have won," one councillor murmured, disbelief in their voice. Ilvor stared at the holographic feed showing the humans celebrating. "No," he said quietly. "They have survived, and that makes them more dangerous than any force we have ever faced." For the first time in their history, the Thryvann felt something unfamiliar: fear. May stood amidst the rubble, her gaze fixed on the wreckage of the mothership. "She gave everything for us," she said softly. Samir placed a hand on her shoulder. "And because of her, we have a chance. Let's make it count." As the sun began to rise over the devastated landscape, the humans regrouped. They were battered and broken, but not defeated. Elena's sacrifice had lit a fire in them that would burn long after the battle was over. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of, not just resilience, but defiance. And now, they were ready to face whatever came next. The battlefield was quiet now, save for the occasional crackle of fires smouldering in the ruins of the Thryvann mothership. The air, heavy with ash and the metallic tang of destruction, seemed to carry the weight of what had just transpired. Humanity had survived, but at great cost. Samir stood at the edge of the crater where the mothership had fallen, its once imposing form now a twisted wreck of alien metals and shattered systems. Beside him, Mei Lin surveyed the horizon. For the first time in years, the sky was clear, the faint blue of Earth's atmosphere peeking through. "She did it," Mei said softly, her voice tinged with both awe and sorrow. Samir nodded. "Elena always said hope isn't logical. Maybe that's why it works." Behind them, survivors began emerging from their bunkers, cautiously stepping into the light. Some were injured, others weary, but all were united by the same unshakable determination. They had faced annihilation and endured. A child no older than 7 tugged at May's sleeve. "Is it over?" the boy asked, his eyes wide. Mei knelt, forcing a small smile despite the lump in her throat. "For now," she said, "but we'll be ready if they come back." The boy nodded, his small hand tightening into a fist. On board the remnants of the Thryvann mothership, Ilvor stood alone in what remained of the council chamber. The once pristine crystalline structure was now marred with cracks, its bioluminescent glow dim and flickering. Ilvor activated a holographic display, replaying the final moments of the battle. He watched as Elena Vega piloted the skimmer into the heart of their ship, her face resolute, her actions driven by something the Thryvann had never truly understood. "She gave herself for them," he murmured. His bioluminescence shifted to a soft, contemplative green. No species has ever fought like this, not for dominance, not for survival alone, but for each other. Other Thryvann survivors entered the chamber, their bioluminescence a pale yellow of unease. "What now?" one of them asked. "Do we regroup? Retaliate?" Ilvor turned to them, his expression unreadable. "No, we leave. We underestimated them once. We won't make that mistake again." "But they are inferior," the other protested. "Are they?" Ilvor asked, his voice cold. "They destroyed our forces with ingenuity, resilience, and something we lack, unity. We have nothing to gain from continuing this war." The others fell silent, their colors dimming in reluctant agreement. Back on Earth, Samir and Mei led the survivors in salvaging what they could from the wreckage. Pieces of the mothership were hauled into makeshift workshops where engineers and scientists began studying the advanced alien technology. "This could change everything," Mei said, holding a shard of the alien metal. "We could rebuild better than before," Samir nodded. "But we can't just rebuild our cities. We have to rebuild who we are. No more repeating the mistakes that brought us to this point." The survivors worked tirelessly, transforming the battlefield into a place of rebirth. Crops were planted in the ash-enriched soil, water purification systems were constructed, and defenses were strengthened. Humanity, once on the brink of extinction, was adapting again, just as they always had. At the center of the camp, a monument began to take shape. Crafted from fragments of the mothership and human relics, it bore the names of those who had sacrificed everything in the fight for survival. At the top, etched into the metal, were the words, "For those who fought, for those who endured, for those who gave us hope." Mei stood before the monument one evening, the setting sun casting long shadows across the camp. She placed a hand on the cold metal and whispered, "You're not forgotten, Commander." Behind her, Samir approached. "She'd be proud of what we've built," he said. Mei turned, her eyes glistening. "We're only here because of her, because of all of them," Samir nodded. "And because we're human." That's something no one, not even the Thryvann, can take from us. As night fell, the survivors gathered around a fire, sharing stories and laughter. For the first time in years, there was a sense of peace, but May couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Thryvann had retreated, but they would never forget what had happened here. Neither would humanity. "We've proven we can survive," she said quietly to Samir. "But surviving isn't enough. We have to prepare for what comes next." Samir glanced at the horizon, where the faint glow of alien debris still lingered. "We will. And when they come back, they won't face the same humanity they tried to destroy." As the stars glittered overhead, the survivors looked to the future, not with fear but with hope. Humanity had defied the odds, overcome impossible challenges, and earned the respect and fear of the galaxy. And now they were ready to forge their destiny among the stars.